Hey folks, Dave from Opposing the Matrix. How are you? Second show without a hat. What do you think about that, huh? Yeah, I'm reforming. My wife doesn't like me wearing hats a lot of times, and so I don't know. I capitulated, okay? Greetings again. Today is, it's a Tuesday. It's 19th of March, 2026. Beautiful day here in Oregon. Supposed to get up to about 72 degrees again. Then it's going to turn colder this weekend, and it's supposed to rain and stuff. But you take what you can when you get it. Okay. This show's brought to you by the big guy on the back door there. I know I'm not really a Bigfoot advocate. I think that they're demonic and they're interdimensional and stuff, and but they are still real, okay? And anyway, let's just keep going here. Okay, quite a show today. A rip-roaring show. We're going to be talking about lots of neat stuff. We're going to be talking about black-eyed children, actually. And I haven't done a show on black-eyed children in quite a while now, so it's due. It is due right now. Okay. And so the first part, we're going to explain what they are, where they're seen, when they're encountered, and stuff like that. And then it goes into a lot of different things, okay? I've got pictures of progressions of what alien human hybrids would look like if... I'm sorry, folks. My gain is really turned up, and I have to really be careful not to talk too loud. But yeah, from like 99% alien to 1% human, then 85, 75, 50-50. I don't know. I think it's 30, 20, or 25, 10, and then 5. And so anyway, I don't know if I'll get to that today. This may be a 2-show program because there's just so much to get into. And when I'm done today, you're going to really have an education, if you don't have one already, that is, about black-eyed kids. They're also they're black-eyed children, but they're also called BECs, B-E-Ks, black-eyed kids. And it's really a strange phenomena, and one that we should be concerned about, because when things start getting more and more evil in our society, we're going to have these people, different people, knocking on our doors, and some of them aren't going to be quite right, and some of them aren't quite right spiritually. And so we have to know that they're coming, of course, and what to do when they get here. And always remember, folks, if you don't remember anything else from this show, remember that if you're being harassed or attacked by demonic forces or black-eyed children or things that call themselves aliens from outer space, the name of Yeshua or the name of Jesus. Now, this is the Jesus or Yeshua of Scripture, okay? Not the guy that's running around in a spaceship called Lord Sonata. This is the real thing, the real Yeshua, the biblical Yeshua of Nazareth. So just call in his name and rebuke them in his name, and they go away, okay? And if you're not a believer, and you practice that and it works, just know that it's only going to work for a while, because sooner or later they're going to get wise that you have no relationship, you have no authority, basically, and they'll be back. But if you come to faith in Yeshua and you become adopted by God and you have that authority, adopted children have the authority of their parents. Okay, so, oh man, there's so much to get into here. All right, I guess we better get cracking, huh? So I'm going to start off by reading. I did a whole bunch of research, folks. Days and days of research on this one, okay? And I've always been fascinated, the fact that their eyes are black, and when you look at these alien grays and stuff, they have black eyes too, okay? And so do the mantid insectoids. The reptilians don't. They have regular reptilian eyes, but it's a characteristic of the gray aliens. And if I would highly recommend that you read a book by Dr. David Jacobs called "Walking Among Us." He did a study through hypnosis and a lot of other research that showed that these things are these aliens, supposed aliens, they're really fallen angels, are messing around with genetics, and they're trying to create their own form of humanity. Why? Maybe because they can they'd have the way for the Nephilim to have bodies again, and to claim that they can have a stab at salvation and also at resurrection, which they can't have because they're not of God, they're not of Yahweh, and they didn't have Yahweh blowing the essence of life into them through the Spirit. So they might try to pull that one, and I can see Yahweh right now. No, I'm sorry. I knew this was coming, and this is going to happen. So next idea. So anyway, so Dr. David Jacobs, he's done a lot of research into this and has seen how they have progressed from basically a rough form of alien-human hybrid to somebody now that can barely be distinguished. And now the only way to distinguish them is through their mannerisms, okay? Because they haven't quite gotten that down yet. But if we give them a few more years, they'll probably have that down too. I think they're trying to replace us, you and I, with their own form, okay? Their own. They create these things, and just like Yahweh, well, not just like, but they're claiming to be just like Yahweh created mankind, and so they're creating these beings to basically be a viable force on planet Earth in the end days, and all indications are that they're succeeding pretty well. So, but please, if you can, read that book by Dr. David Jacobs. I think that you'll learn a lot when you read it, and it'll just take any doubt away from you that that there is a really forward and forthgoing effort to make shellless bodies for these things, and that can someday be inhabited by demonic forces. But like I said, they are not redeemable. But so I can understand if people have. Here's the deal: these things they're going to look human, they're going to act human, okay? And I mean act 100% human. They're not going to be 100%. And your inclination is that, okay, these are people, and you should be nice to them, and they should have rights and stuff like this. But they are not people. They're a genetic mutation or a genetic experiment. And although they look like us and everything else, they're not us, and they like Yahweh is not going to be able to save them, and it would be natural, because I was thinking yesterday, I was looking at some of the pictures that were rendered for me, these things that were, like 10% alien and 90% human. And basically, that mixture looks very human, okay? You almost can't even tell the difference. And so I was looking at this character, and I was like, wow, I kind of feel sorry for them, because it's not their fault that they're being created for malevolent purposes and stuff, and that they're products of a race of they're fallen angels, but they want us to think that they're a race of aliens from outer space that are trying to accelerate our vibratory level so we can evolve, so to speak. Evolve into what? The first one, the one that's closest to Homo sapiens sapien is Homo erectus, and after that it's Homo deus, or God-man. So that's always been the aspiration of mankind, is to become like God. Of course, not without having to do any of the work or anything. So they kind of like sit there and hope and wish and pray that it'll happen in their lifetime. But anyway, let me get started on this, or we're never going to get done. Okay. So I had a choice of titles for this show. So you know. The first one was Black-Eyed Children, Modern Folklore, Paranormal Encounter, or Manufactured Fear. And the second one was Don't Let Them In, The Strange Rise of the Black-Eyed Children Legend. Okay. I think I'm going to go with the second one, but I could be convinced to go with the first one. Enough people tell me to. Okay. So the BEK, or Black-Eyed Kids phenomena, is valuable to explore, not merely because the stories are creepy. I think they were first introduced on something called Creepypasta, and I still have to get to go to that site and see what that's all about. Just the name just makes me want to go. Okay. Valuable to explore, not merely because the stories are creepy, but because it sits at the intersection of fear, folklore, internet myth-making, and religious symbolism. Okay? It's a mixture, it's a very eclectic mixture of different ideas. And, oh, anyway, it still goes too. Eyewitness testimony, psychology, and media contagion. Those are added onto that too. Whether one believes the accounts are literal or not, the phenomena tells us that something real about how modern people process evil, vulnerability, and the uncanny. Okay. I watched this guy, he does news out of Iran. It's Tusi.com, Tousi.com. If you want to know what's going on in Iran, watch him, because he's got it nailed down. And he is Iranian, living in London somewhere, or Great Britain anyway. But he, let's see, where's I going with that? He's always talking about fake news, of course, and how easy it is for people to believe a lie. He says it's more easy for people to believe a lie than it is for them to believe the truth. And I could totally understand that. I like Pepsi Zero. They are not endorsing this story or this radio show. I'm just letting you know when I'm swigging every once in a while to keep my throat lubricated here. Okay. Let's see. So whether, getting back to this, whether one believes the accounts are literal or not, the phenomena tells us something real about the modern people process of evil, vulnerability, and the uncanny. Okay, how they process it. So I know I read that already, but I needed to read it again so that we could get that down. Because that's kind of the crux of this whole thing. Yes, it's the Black-Eyed Children stuff, but the crux is, do you believe it or not? And what do you do if you come across it? We'll get into that here, but not right now. All right. So, you ready for a spooky intro here? Here we go. It's a very quiet night. You're sitting there in your room reading a book, a very interesting book that of a subject that you're very fond of. And you're almost falling asleep, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the window or the front door. You go to investigate, and there's two children asking politely to be let in. And it usually happens real late at night. So why are they out this late at night knocking on the door? You figure, I don't know, I'll have to ask them. So the two children ask politely to be let in. At first they seem vulnerable. And who wouldn't think that? They're children, right? Younger children, and they're out in the cold, in the dark, and very late at night, or very early in the morning, where you want to look at it. Then something is wrong. The voice is too flat, kind of monotone. The wording is too formal for kids that age. And the behavior is too insistent. And then the eyes, completely black. Doo, doo, doo. Okay. I got to get some sound effects on this show. That's all there is to it. So this image works real well on radio, and I know that we're doing video here too, but if you just close your eyes and think about it, that little monologue there, it's sometimes you might find yourself opening your eyes real quick to realize you're still in reality. So let's see. Let's move on past that. So this is not just a ghost story about spooky children, okay? It's one of the clearest examples of a modern internet-born legend that behaves like ancient folklore. Now, believe me, I've researched to see how far back this goes. It doesn't go back very far in this sort of fashion, but there's always some kind of occult thing that involves children, either the abduction of children or changelings, like the changing of children from one thing to another. And it usually happens in a very rural area, and the children are taken and returned, or sometimes not returned. So, okay, so let's get some definitions down here and clearly see what we're talking about. Okay, so black-eyed children are usually described as children or teens, often about 6 to 16 years old. They have pale or oddly washed-out skin, kind of almost ghostly. Or you ever see somebody that has very low blood capacity? They turn kind of a grayish white. Yeah, kind of like that. Okay, they're dressed either plainly or strangely old-fashioned. Speaking in an unnaturally calm, mature, and rehearsed way. Okay, that's something that it's really hard to get kids to do, especially, kids that are 9 or 10 or 11 years old. They always want to joke around and fool around and laugh. So, but to get them to be serious, not too easy. Let's see. They have solid black eyes with no visible white sclera or any color in the iris. It's all jet black. And they're always asking to be let inside of a house or a vehicle. That's interesting. It's interesting that they ask. And if you get into demon possession and looking into it, you'll always see that somehow, some way, either through the person's lifestyle or through direct invocation, the demonic forces are first asking to be let in. And we have found in our research with helping people that have been abducted and stuff like that, that there are many ways, we call them doors or portals, that open up, and why they open up and everything. And it's, practicing evil practices, meaning, Ouija boards, tarot cards, stuff like that. They'll get down on me now because I like rock and roll music too, but there's a lot of rock and roll music that's out there, like heavy metal and stuff, that's dedicated to Satan, and even some of the mellower stuff too. I know there's a few Rolling Stones songs and stuff that and Beatles that when you played them backwards, you could actually hear commands being shouted out to people, and they weren't good things to do either. So anyway, and past histories. There's a psychological phenomena, and I can't remember the name of it, but I'll describe it. Where if a child is born to parents where the father abuses the mother or abuses the child, maybe even, I'm talking about slapping around and beating up and stuff. Okay, there's a very good chance that the child's going to go one or two ways. He's either going to hate that behavior and never do it, or he might even say he's going to behave and never do it, but he turns out doing it anyway. And so you either do or you don't, in that vein. But this is talked about in Scripture too, actually. When Yahweh is first bringing the Torah to the people, and he says, one of the Ten Commandments, I am the Lord your God. Let's see. He said, visiting the sins of the wicked, the wicked fathers or something, up to the fourth generation. And it said, but blessing the righteous ones, and it seems to suggest eternally. And I'm talking about not just the person that's being righteous, but also their offspring. often is versed in scripture and stuff, and they become very intense followers of Yeshua. But anyway, or any religion when you're thinking about it. A lot of Jews are that way too. They're so immersed in Torah that when at times time comes for them to be older, to grow up and get out into the world, they're very very ready for it, but very solidly based on the Torah and Nevi'im. So, okay, where are we here? Okay, asking to be let in. That's where we got all started there. So, just asking to be let in isn't the only way that things can come in, okay? We also found that if a person's ancestor was involved in something strange like the Masonic Lodge or something like that, that was a big door that opened up for a lot of people. They'd sit there scratching their heads trying to figure out what they did for this to happen. And I asked, what about your forefathers? Any of them, your grandfathers or great-grandfathers, or your father even, were they involved in anything that might be considered unholy or even satanic? And, well, he's a member of the lodge. And I'm like, oh, Masonic Lodge? Yeah, well, there's a big one right there. So they have to sort of renounce that and break that tie, break that soul tie and that spirit tie also. So let's see. So what are some common settings? They are reported at the front doors of houses, or apartments there too, late at night. I'm at parked cars where people are just sitting there, or they might be fidgeting around with something, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the window or the door. They're seen near movie theaters, gas stations, and roadside areas. I can imagine roadside areas because those are often very quite desolate, especially later at night. And they're also seen in isolated neighborhoods or semi-rural roads. Okay, so common requests from these things. The children usually ask for something that sounds harmless. Let us in. We want to use your phone. That's a big one. We need a ride. We need to wait for our parents. Yeah, you're going to see a video a little later that's it's going to freak you out because the parents aren't what you might think they are right now. Anyway, let's see. So common emotional responses from witnesses, okay? Now, bear in mind, even when David Jacobs was talking about these, I call them changelings, or these alien human hybrids that are highly progressed, that they had the ability to affect people's minds and make them think something or make them forget. Okay, so witnesses almost always describe a sudden dread, I don't know if you've ever been experienced alien abduction or something close, even visitations at night in your room, where you feel that chill that just goes like from the bottom of your feet right up to the top of your head, and then you start getting paralyzed. But anyway, so people feel a sudden dread, and it is quite sudden actually. They feel a sense of spiritual danger. They feel paralysis or confusion, and they feel the feeling that the entity is not truly human. Okay. There are a lot of people that have discernment that don't even realize it. And to know something that is not human, that looks human, that's a discernment tool that's quite handy. Folks, Israel's getting hit with missiles like there's no tomorrow. Missiles and drones. You need to be praying more for Israel. Okay. Let's see, paralysis or confusion, the feeling that the entity is not truly human. Okay. Okay, so there's a major recurring element that they ask for permission to enter, which is weird because if they're out to get you or they hate you or they want to destroy you, you think they would just come in. But there is a spiritual gate that's there that they cannot cross until the person that is the gatekeeper basically gives permission for them to enter. So. Okay, so the origin story, Brian Bethel. This is the first story that really became popular. This was somebody that had the guts. Okay, that's a good word to use. That had the guts to come out and report it, and that's probably because he's a newspaper reporter. But let me get another swig here, and then we'll go even further. Man, that is the pause that's refreshing. Okay. So the most widely accepted origin. Most modern summaries trace legend to Brian Bethel, a Texas journalist whose account from Abilene, Texas in 1996 became the foundational story. The story later circulated online in the late 1990s as paranormal forums and in mailing lists. All right. So what happened to Bethel, or what Bethel said happened, okay? According to later retelling of Bethel's account, he was in his car at night outside of a strip mall or a theater area. Okay, there's that one thing right there where you find him. Two boys approached asking for a ride. Their explanation did not quite add up. They sounded older than they looked. He became overwhelmed by fear. And then he noticed their fully black eyes, and he drove away immediately. But one thing they left out is that unconsciously he felt his hand going toward the door, like he was going to open it, and it wasn't. He didn't desire to open it, but see, that's why these things have the ability to affect your mind, to mind read, maybe, I don't know, but to plant stuff in your brain or your body that to make you to do stuff that you don't necessarily feel is safe to do. Okay, so why did this case matter, you might ask? The case mattered because it provided a name witness, a concrete place, a cinematic scenario, a highly repeatable story structure, and enough ambiguity to be endlessly retold. Okay. It was just a good story, and who doesn't love a good story? Who doesn't love telling a good story? This would be a good campground story, maybe, unless you got some people there that freak out with stuff like that. So key points that we need to look at. Even many skeptical treatments acknowledge that the Bethel case is the seed crystal of the modern legend, the originator, the birther. Whether it began as a sincere experiment, a misperception, or a dramatized event, or a story evolved as it traveled, so to speak. When we were kids, I remember this is a long time ago. I went to a school named Franklin School in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and it's not there anymore. They tore it down several years ago, but I mean, that place was old. It was my grandmother went to school there as a young kid, very young kid. But she had to stand out, and our playground was macadam, and it was blacktop. Okay, she had to stand out on the blacktop, and she had us. She told a little story, very little, like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy log, or something like that. And so I went to the next person, then to the next, and to the next, and there was probably about 15 people there. And by the time it got there, the phrase, the nice brown fox jumped over the log, it turned out to be something totally stupid, like the prince became a frog, or something like that. Something that might have had some sound similarities to it, but not the story similarities whatsoever. I think the game was called Telephone, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so what about, we have to caution uncertainty, okay? Some summaries differ on whether the first online post dates to 1997 or 98. So the safest phrasing is that the BEK legend took place in the late 1990s. Bethel's account of a 1996 encounter. Following Bethel's account of 1996 encounter. Okay. So, recurring patterns and alleged encounters. This is one of the strongest sections for radio because repetition is what makes the phenomenon interesting. And although you can see me, you can hear me too. So, I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes I just like to close my eyes and listen to the story instead of watching the video. But I can't do that anymore because I fall asleep really easy anymore. Yeah, I'll start watching and I'll wake up about the time it's ending. Let's see. So the children are off before the eyes are noticed. Okay. So witnesses often say the first clue is not the eyes. It's the tone, the language, the pushiness, the emotionless delivery, and the mismatch between appearance and behavior. Okay, it says a lot, doesn't it? It's not necessarily the eyes, it's the attitude, the actions, the mechanism of their actions and stuff like that. Okay. The request for entry. The motif is central. They do not usually force entry. They insist on invitation. They repeatedly ask to be allowed in. Okay. Sorry, folks, I had a thought there. Sometimes I read this stuff and I have to just sit there and think about it. Because sometimes I might want to go in a different direction and stuff like that. Okay. They appear to be constrained by some rule that doesn't allow them to come in without asking. And my advice right now is if they ask, tell them straight out no. And you'll see why when you watch the videos here. But all right. The mechanical or rehearsed speech pattern. Reports often describe speech that feels formal, repetitive, monotone or monotonous, and too mature for a child. I know some pretty smart kids. One of my grandsons is incredibly smart. Actually, they're all very smart, but one of them is only is quite young, and but he acts like he's in college or something, or when he talks, and it's just amazing. But so some kids can pull that off, but for the most part, these black-eyed kids, they're always too mature to be a child. In other words, their mentality is too mature. It'd be like an adult shrinking down and trying to act like a kid. We could probably do a lot of it effectively, but it'll always be known that we're not kids. Okay. Okay. So witnesses often say that the dreaded arrives before recognition. What? Witnesses often say the dread arrives before recognition. That detail is crucial because it suggests either a paranormal presence recognized intuitively or a psychological threat response before the brain consciously identifies the anomaly. So now let's look at the disappearance or abrupt end. Many stories end with the witness referral, and that's good. Or the children walking away, or the children vanishing from sight unusually quickly, and no further evidence. Let me relate to you a story about an angelic encounter. Real quick. A group of us singles, this is way back when, in I think the 90s probably, we were all together, and we were decided to go to a free concert up in Sacramento. We didn't live there at the time, but there was a place called Warehouse Ministries, and they let you come, and you gave a love offering. You don't have to pay for tickets. You just throw $10 in of all things, a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket. But the group that we saw was really giving themselves a lot of glory and not giving the glory to Yahweh. So we decided to get up and leave. much to the consternation of one of the guys that was putting it on, because he kind of chastised us for leaving early. And I just, waved and said, okay, whatever. And so we left and decided to go to an area of town called Old Sacramento. And in that area, there's like Old Town, like back in the 1800s, there were boardwalks to walk on, and the streets are paved, but which is a shame. They shouldn't have paved them, but they did. And so as we were walking along one time, a black guy came up to us, dressed in a old military garb, not. They weren't camouflage. They were just the army green. And he walked up to him and said, "Hey, if I don't get something to eat, I'm going to die." So we took him over to a Wendy's and sat him down, and I went and got some food, and some others went with me also because they were hungry too. And I brought the food over, and I recognized that there was like 5 or 6 of the guys they were already talking with, but I didn't want to be a crowd. It's some people like one-on-one, some people like to talk to just a few people, but I didn't want it to be 10 people, with him in the middle. And so I went and sat with the rest of the group over probably about 3 or 4 tables away. And so we ate our dinner, and it was time to leave. And so we went up to the cash register and started paying for our portions. And I had already paid for mine earlier. So I was standing right behind the guy that we had just fed, and we got outside. And I just turned my head for a second to see if somebody else was with me, And when I turned it back, this guy was gone, man. It was like he was never there. I mean, I looked up and down the street, and you would have recognized him too, because there aren't that many African Americans walking around Old Sacramento, let alone with fatigues on, or olive drab army clothes. But I looked to the left, I looked to the right, I looked up the street on the left side, up on the right, straight across. At the most, if he's just walking a regular pace, he probably could have got maybe 5, maybe 10 feet away by the time I turned around. Flashing and then flashing back, and he was gone. So the Lord impressed on me, Yahweh impressed on me that we had entertained angels unaware. So, which was neat. I'll never forget that time either. Let's see. Okay, so many stories end with a witness refusal, the children walking away, the children vanishing from sight, usually quickly. Okay, that's why I started that story. And no further evidence. Okay, let's see. I want to find out where I can take a break and show a video. Why don't I, let's see. Okay, so this is where we're going to pick up. I just want to highlight this, okay. All right, there we go. Now we know where to go. Okay, so we have a couple of videos, and they're not very long. I would love to show longer videos on here, but I don't want 2 and 3 hour long shows. It's that's not fair to you, and it's definitely not fair to me either. So let's look at the first one. It's a shorter one. Black-eyed kids, mystery that nobody can answer. Okay, here we go.
It often begins the same way. A knock at the door late at night. A stranger waiting outside, quiet but persistent. And when the door opens, it is not a stranger at all. It is a child, pale, expressionless, asking to come inside. But then the detail that makes the blood run cold the eyes. Completely blacked out, no whites, no pupils. Just endless darkness staring back. These are the black-eyed children. And for decades, people all over the world have reported terrifying encounters with them. The story first entered public awareness in the mid-1990s. A Texas journalist named Brian Bethel wrote of his strange encounter one late evening. He was sitting in his car in a parking lot when two boys approached, asking for a ride. They said they wanted to see a movie and that they needed a lift home to get money. At first, Bethel considered it odd they seemed normal enough, but something about them felt off and unnatural. As the conversation continued, he noticed their eyes. Black, entirely black. A wave of fear washed over him. He described it as a primal terror, as though his body knew something his mind could not explain. He fled the scene, shaken, convinced that had he let them in, something terrible would have happened. When he shared his story, others began coming forward. People from different states, even different countries, claimed they too had seen children who did not seem human. Children who asked for help in the dead of night. Children whose eyes revealed nothing but darkness. The reports shared a pattern. These children often appeared in groups of 2 or more. They spoke politely, but their words seemed rehearsed, almost mechanical. They would ask to be let inside a home, a car, sometimes even an office. And always there was a reason. They needed to use the phone, they needed shelter, they were lost. The stories varied, but the request was the same: permission to enter. Witnesses described an overwhelming sense of dread, a gut feeling that something was deeply wrong. One man reported his dogs growling and refusing to approach the children. Another claimed that after refusing to let them in, he suffered a string of bad luck illness, financial loss, nightmares that lasted for weeks. These accounts spread through early internet forums, email chains, and later paranormal websites. And with every new story, the legend grew stronger. Skeptics dismissed it as folklore, a modern urban myth. But believers argued that the consistency of the details, the pale skin, the monotone voices, the black, soulless eyes could not be ignored. By the late 1990s, the black-eyed children had become one of the most chilling urban legends of the digital age. Yet, unlike ghost stories or campfire tales, these accounts were not from decades past. They are real. They are happening now in modern neighborhoods, to ordinary people. And the most disturbing detail, the children are always asking for the same thing: access. Entry into your space, your car. Your home, your life. But why? Why do they need permission? And what happens if someone says yes? To answer that, we must look closer at the countless eyewitness accounts and the disturbing pattern they reveal. The first stories were easy to dismiss. Strange children, late-night encounters, a trick of the imagination. But as the years passed...
Folks, I want you to remember that phrase, strange children. We're going to look at that next, okay?
A chilling pattern began to emerge. No matter where the stories came from, the United States, the United Kingdom, even parts of Asia and Australia, the details were almost identical. The children always appeared at night. They always traveled in pairs or small groups. And most unsettling of all, they always asked for permission to enter. A woman in rural Vermont told of being awoken one stormy evening by a knock on her farmhouse door. When she answered, 2 children stood outside, one boy, one girl, soaked from the rain. They asked politely if they could come in to use the phone. She hesitated, unsettled by their emotionless tone. Then she saw their eyes. Black, glossy, endless. She slammed the door, heart racing, and later claimed she heard soft tapping on the windows long after the children had gone. Another man in Oregon recalled being approached while smoking outside his home late at night. A young boy, no older than 12, asked if he could come inside because he was lost. The man described feeling paralyzed by fear, his instinct screaming that something was wrong. When he refused, the boy's expression turned blank. The child repeated the request again and again, voice calm but commanding, as though rehearsed. Eventually, the man fled inside and locked every door. Witnesses often describe a sense of unnatural pressure during these encounters. The children's voices are monotone, their movements slow, almost deliberate. Some claim their technology phones, radios, even car engines malfunctioned in the children's presence. Dogs and cats often react violently, growling, hiding, or refusing to go near them. What unsettles people most is their behavior. Unlike normal children, they show no real emotion. No fear, no excitement, no natural warmth. Only the cold persistence of a single demand. Let us in. It is the consistency that makes the stories so disturbing. Whether the sighting is in a small town or a busy city, whether the witness is a parent, a driver, or a night shift worker, the script is always the same. A request for entry, the black eyes, the overwhelming sense of danger, and always the instinct to refuse. But what if someone says yes? Accounts of this are rare. Few people claim to have allowed the children inside. Those who say they did describe falling ill soon after severe migraines, unexplained nosebleeds, and lingering nightmares. Some report weeks of insomnia, always haunted by the same sound, knocking at the door. There are whispers online of darker outcomes, stories of people who vanished after encounters with the black-eyed children. But hard evidence is difficult to find. The truth is buried beneath rumor, fear, and folklore. Still, the questions remain. Why do they need permission? Are they spirits, demons? Something not of this world?
Yep.
And why do their appearances follow such a strict, chilling pattern? In folklore, creatures that require permission, vampires, fae, certain spirits, are said to be bound by unseen rules. Perhaps the black-eyed children follow this same ancient law. Or perhaps it is a clue to something even stranger. Whatever the explanation, the reports only grew more frequent with time. More witnesses, more accounts, more evidence that something was happening, something that could not be dismissed as coincidence. And so the theories began. The paranormal community offered explanations supernatural, alien, even demonic, each one darker than the last. To understand who or what the black-eyed children might be, we must step into the world of speculation, where folklore, science fiction, and fear collide. When faced with something as unsettling as the black-eyed children, the human mind searches for answers. Explanations, patterns that can make the unexplainable feel less threatening. Over the years, countless theories have emerged, each one attempting to explain who or what these children really are. One of the oldest theories connects them to demonic entities. In folklore across cultures, beings with dark or unnatural eyes are often seen as harbingers of evil. Their need for permission to enter echoes the ancient myths of demons and vampires creatures, unable to cross a threshold without being invited. Believers argue that the children's polite persistence and their chilling black gaze suggest something parasitic, feeding not on blood but on fear itself. Another theory suggests the children are spirits of the dead, lost souls trapped between worlds. Some witnesses report feelings of intense sadness during encounters, as though the children were not only terrifying but tragic. In this view, the black eyes symbolize emptiness, the absence of life, the void of humanity. But not all theories remain in the realm of the supernatural. Some point to the possibility of extraterrestrial origins, The black, oversized eyes are reminiscent of the classic gray alien archetype, often associated with abduction stories. Perhaps believers suggest the black-eyed children are a disguised form of something not of this earth. There are also those who believe the phenomenon is psychic or interdimensional. The children, they argue, are not physical beings at all, but manifestations of something slipping through cracks in reality. Their presence disrupts electronics, causes unease, even influences dreams. Skeptics, however, offer simpler explanations. The story as we know it today can be traced back to the late 90s, right as internet forums were becoming mainstream. It has all the hallmarks of what we call digital folklore. A story gets posted, it gets shared, and with each share, it gets a little more detailed, a little more consistent. It's a classic urban legend for the internet age. Our brains are wired to see patterns, to find agency where there is none. A shadow, a strange noise, a child with an unusual medical condition seen in poor lighting. Our fear fills in the blanks. The black eyes are a potent symbol. They represent a lack of soul, a void. When we hear a story like that, our own anxieties about deception and the unknown are projected onto it, making it feel viscerally real, even if it isn't. Yet for every skeptic, there is a witness who swears their experience was real. They describe the atmosphere, the dread, the absolute certainty that what they saw was not human. And it is this tension between folklore and fact, between fear and logic, that keeps the black-eyed children alive in our collective imagination. Are they demons, ghosts, aliens, or something our minds create in the shadows of the night? What is certain is this: the stories are not fading. They continue to spread. From whispered encounters in small towns to viral posts on the internet, the black-eyed children remain with us. And that raises another question. If the children are not real, why do so many people believe they've seen them? What is it about this legend that digs into our psychology, that unsettles us so deeply? To understand that, we must turn not to folklore, but to psychology. Because sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones our own minds create. How do you live after the silence they leave behind? For many, the world shrinks. You stop answering the door after dusk. You install new logs, then check them obsessively. Some turn to online forums, finding a quiet fellowship of the haunted, sharing stories in the digital dark to prove they aren't crazy. Others try to bury it, forcing a frantic return to normalcy, telling themselves it was a dream, a trick of the light. But these are more than just habits. They are rituals of survival. Each precaution, each shared story, is a desperate attempt to reclaim a sense of safety that was shattered by a simple knock on the door. The truth is, some mysteries aren't meant for closure. The story of the black-eyed children doesn't end with an explanation. It ends with a question. We can search for answers in folklore, psychology, or hushed online confessions, but every theory is just another guess in the dark. The story's true power isn't in what they are, but that they are a persistent, chilling anomaly that defies us. It is a legacy of pure ambiguity, leaving not an answer, but a choice. Because when the knock comes to your door, what you believe won't matter, only what you do.
Ooh. Well, that kind of left us with a ultimatum toward the end, huh? Interesting. One phrase that she used, and I picked up on this several years ago, trying to put this together with black-eyed children. And with me, I always say, well, does the Bible talk about it? Is it in Scripture? Well, nothing that says beware the black-eyed children or anything like that. But I want to share something with you, okay? So hold on a second. It may take me a minute or so to get this going here. Okay, and let's see. Somehow I have to figure out how to get... Okay, there we go. Oh, come on, don't do this to me. Okay, so let me go here. All right, folks. Now we're working. Now we're cooking with gas. All right, that phrase "strange children" just always kind of got to me. Okay, and so I said, I'm gonna have to look up strange children in the scriptures. So anyway, let me go back a couple of pages. I want to show you something here. Okay. Let's see, one more, I think. Okay, so exact phrases. I looked these up. All right. Hold on, let me, all right. So, if we go to Psalm 144:7, it says, "Send thy hand from above, rid me, and deliver me out of great waters and the hand of strange children." Ooh. All right. Here's another one that definitely applies here. Let's see. Same Psalm, verse 11. "Rid me and deliver me from the hand of strange children, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and the right hand is a right hand of falsehood." Well, that could certainly be said of the black-eyed children, huh? And then this one doesn't really apply, I don't think, but Hosea chapter 5, verse 7, "They have dealt treacherously against the Lord, for they have begotten strange children. Now shall a month devour them with their portions." Okay, strange children. So let's just pick this one here. All right, and it takes us to here. Then we go here again, and we'll go down here. Okay, now here's that whole verse in Hebrew. Okay, so let's see. "Rid me." Okay, this has all the words. Okay, and then it has the H5337, for instance. On this is Hebrew 5337, and it's a word definition. Okay, "from the hand of strange." Okay, you ready for this? Well, let's look at children first. Okay. It's going to be the normal word for children, ben. Okay. Ben means son, and bat means daughter. Okay. And, just let's see. Son, children, young, stuff like, okay, here we go. Children, son, grandson, child, member of a group. Son, male child, grandson, children, either male or female. Youth and young men, young of animals. All right, so pretty well means kids or children. Okay, nothing else that I can see. All right, so let's go back here and let's look at strange. All right, are you sitting down? Please, if you're standing, sit down. Okay, the word is nakar. Or nikar. It's a masculine. Now, there's a root here. Let's look at the regular, and then we'll look at the root. Okay, because sometimes the root is more revealing than the regular is. Okay. All right, strange. Foreign. Alien. Let me read that word again. Alien. Foreignness. That which is foreign. Now, alien means like somebody from another nation, but an alien also means somebody from another world. Okay. So let's see. That's capital one, and then a regular one. Forgiveness and foreign gods, foreignness and foreign gods. Alien, foreigner, and foreign, different varieties. So it could mean alien. Okay. Again, alien meaning somebody not of your current country or something like that, or it could mean somebody of not this earth. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So strange children means could mean alien children, okay, or it might not. Who knows? But it's the possibility is definitely there. Okay, so let me get rid of this here, and I'll go back to. Let's see right here. Okay, now I got to get rid of this here. Hold on a sec. Here, let's do this here. All right, there it is. Usually, if something happens, I can figure it out pretty quick. What I did wrong. Okay. All right. So let's see. As long as before we start to read again, I did a progression. I'm going to mention it earlier. Of I got onto what do you call it? AI, artificial intelligence online, and I said, render for me an image of, and so it would be first one was a person that is pick your pick, 50% alien and 50% human. Actually, it was a hybrid of a person. Okay, that's what I put. Anyway, so I started out with 99%, and then 80, and then 70, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to present that to you right now and show it to you before I forget. Okay. Sometimes I look at the list from last week, and I'm like, did I do that? I don't remember doing that, and I don't want to do that here. Okay. So we're going to go here. Oh, no, we're not. We're going to go here. All right. So, and it's not supposed to be right there.
It often begins the same.
No, I'm not supposed to do that either. Okay, let's see. Let's turn that off. All right, progressive. Okay, there we go. I'm just wondering here why it is not. Okay, let me get me out of here. Okay. Okay, I'm having technical difficulties, folks. Come on, man. This has got to work. It's just got to work. Okay, it's going to work now. Okay. This is not the first picture. Let me get to the first one, okay? Okay, so this is like 99% alien and 1% human, okay? First thing you're going to notice is that it's got a little bit of a nose, okay? Usually aliens don't. They have like two little holes. And it's also got lips. A lot of times aliens don't have those, okay? But it's pretty butt ugly, you got to admit. And it's, and yeah, all the eyes are totally, and you can see the eyes go up on a slant. They usually don't do that with humans. And anyway, so let's go to the next one, okay, shall we? Nope, let me just see something here. Okay, I think I got it right. Okay, so this is 80% alien and 20% human. I got that right. Yeah. Now you can see that now of course, we've got human-looking skin, a definite nose, yes, big black eyes, and the chin line is still more alien than it is human being. Although I've seen, what is it, Victoria Principal or some actress used to have a chin line like this, which makes me wonder now. Anyway, so let's see. This one's a little more human and less alien. Okay. I think this is like 70. Yeah, 70-30. 70% alien, 30% human. Okay. Again, the jaw is still a little sharp. And you got the little cleft here between the nose and the mouth. Okay, and eyebrows are pronounced on here. They weren't so much on the other ones. Okay. All right, and now we're starting to look even more human. Okay. Still with the black eyes. And I can't remember what this one was. Let's see, but it's progressively more human. Okay. Then this one I think was, what is it, 20% alien and 80% human. Okay, he's starting to really look like a person now instead of a hideous creature. I noticed a little bit in the cleft in the chin. And the lips have color. All right. Eyebrows are more pronounced, and the jawline doesn't look as much like a V as the other ones that we saw before. Okay, and here we have, it's a different, I had to get out of the program and go back in, and when I did, it gave me a different female here. But you can see she's, I think, what is this? I think this is 10% alien and 90% human. And you can see that the face is still, it's okay. Regular nose, regular lips, and the ear's normal on this one too. And you can see the skin on her, by her clavicle here and stuff is human skin. On the other ones, it was a mixture. And but the black eye still, okay. And here we have, I think it's 5% alien and 95% human. So, like a woman you'd meet anywhere, and if you were single and she was in a bar, you wouldn't think nothing about, asking her out or something. I don't know. I don't do that stuff. I've never been to a bar to ask a woman out. I've maybe been to a bar maybe 3 times in my whole life. Let's put that, make it about 5 or 6 actually, but most of the time it was before I drank. It was going with my dad and my uncle. Let's see. So anyway, there you go. You have normalcy, or pretty much normalcy. Okay, so let's get out of here and here. Okay, there I am again. So let's get back to the reading here, and let's see. I don't know if you can see this, but those are all, yes, dang it, all missile attacks in Israel. And it just keeps coming up more and more and more and more. These guys got to run out of missiles pretty soon. And thank Yahweh that Israel has a way to knock them out of the sky for the most part. And they have that new laser going too, so that's really working great for them. Okay, let's see. Okay, the reading, that's right. Let's see if I can get here, right here. Okay, here we go. There we go. Now I just got to find a way to put this in the middle of the screen again. No, me. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. Okay, that's it. That worked out just great. Okay. So let's look at the claims aftermath, okay? Or whether they claim aftermath. Believers sometimes add that allowing them in leads to, okay, there you go. This is why you don't want to do it. Illness, accidents, bad luck, death, spiritual oppression, but these claims are anecdotal and not supported by verifiable case documentation. Nobody goes by witness anymore, witness of mouth or IQ. It's terrible, it really is. Paranormal interpretations. Man, my wrist feels like it's got bees on it. What's going on? Paranormal interpretations. This is where you can give where I'll give you the full spectrum without endorsing any one view, although I'm going to do that anyway. Okay, so the first is a demonic interpretation. So why do people say this? Well, the eyes are inhuman. The children create dread. They seek permission to enter. They imitate innocence, and they are perceived as deceptive, predatory, and spiritually unclean. So they function almost like a counterfeit child. Outward vulnerability masking inward. Okay. Yeah, I just had another idea about something here. Okay. Counterfeit children. Okay, so another interpretation is that they're vampire-like. Okay, this one is the most obvious comparisons because they must be invited in. Rule is classic vampire folklore. Next one, the entity appears human but is not. Wonder if they can see their face in a mirror. Third one, the interaction occurs at thresholds, windows, doors, cars, and homes. Okay, another interpretation, the ghost or revenant interpretation. Some see them as dead children, or trapped spirits, or spectral lures, and or death personified in juvenile form. Atlas Obscura explicitly frames them as modern legends connected to death personified as a child. Look at the next interpretation, the alien hybrid interdimensional interpretation. Who believes in that? Okay. In paranormal communities, Becks are also interpreted as aliens attempting to mimic human mimicry. Hybrids lacking ordinary social cues. My goodness, if you read David Jacobs' books, that's the biggest problem that they have is accepting human norms. Okay, interdimensional entities using child form as camouflage. Not so much. Okay, so the another one interpretation is the occult thought form, tulpa interpretation. I gotta find out what that is. A smaller but interesting line of thought, repeated belief creates a shared entity template. Okay, not so much. The internet becomes a ritual engine. Enough retelling creates cannibal spirit. Encounter spirit. Wait a minute. Enough here. Enough retelling creates encounter scripts. All right. That's weird when you're reading something and what you read isn't really what's there. Let's see. Future witnesses then report what culture has prepared them to see. Okay, this cannot be proven, but it is a useful conceptual bridge between folklore and the paranormal worldview. Okay, why this legend feels old, and let's look at folklore parallels. One of the most important research findings is that although BEKs are likely a modern construction, they plug into much older fears and motives. One of those is the evil child archetype. Excuse me. There's a place called PBS / GBH is a show called Monstrum. It's on PBS. It describes the BEK legend as a modern construction shaped by a long-standing evil spawn, child archetype, and by centuries of cultural expectations about childhood innocence. Okay. Let's look at threshold for folklore. In many traditions, dangerous beings operate at doorways, gates, windows, crossroads, roadside encounters. What I find interesting is, and always have, is how many times you see them in glass. So when you see demonic apparitions, you see them in glass, or mirrors is another thing. And I don't know, you see the New Age is always talking about crystals, right? Oh, a crystal for this, a crystal of that. If you're bummed out, keep a crystal in your hand. Everything will be okay. You know, that crap. But it's, when you think, what is a mirror? Okay, a mirror is glass. And what's glass? Melted sand. What is sand? Little crystals. Okay. So I think that many times mirrors could be a portal into another dimension, or be able to see into it anyway. And you know, if you look in a mirror and you're looking back at yourself, and then you move, yeah, it could be something that's going wrong with you, or it could be you're seeing into another dimension. Okay, let's see. I got that. Roadside encounters. Okay, BEKs fit that pattern very keenly or cleanly. Okay, changelings. That's another interesting one. This is like from these stories go way back into the Middle Ages. Atlas Obscura draws a comparison to Irish changelings, where something non-human appears in child form and exploits protective instincts. What would happen a lot of times, or what the way the story goes in medieval times, is that a woman would have a child. Let's just say a noblewoman would have a child. Let's say a little boy. All right, and then some kind of little spirits, whether elves or whatever, not elves. Well, you know, it's those little, not gnomes, little creatures. They'll come in at night and take the child, but they'll replace it with another child that looks exactly the same, but has a totally different soul, of course, and personality and everything else. And then they raise the other child for themselves. And I don't know. Now, that's why you have a lock on a refrigerator, by the way. Let's see. Atlas Obscura draws a comparison to Irish changelings, where something non-human appears in child form and exploits protective instincts. Yeah, it happens a lot. Water babies and lure spirits. Atlas Obscura also notes parallels in some native traditions involving childlike cries or small vulnerable figures that lure people to danger. I remember reading the book, The Odyssey. It was one of Homer's books. It was written along with the Iliad. And in the Odyssey, they would sail past an island. There was something out there called sirens. They were women that would sing these songs that would lure the men off the ships, and then they would meet their demise on the island. Okay, so why the child form is so effective. The children represent innocence, dependence, moral obligation, and social trust. To invert that symbol is deeply disturbing. Let's see, black-eyed children may be in format, but modern format, but ancient in emotional architecture. Yeah, because emotions are always going to be the same. Times change, tools change, scenery changes, and everything else. But humans are humans, and they're going to react the same way as today as they did 2,000 years ago, when presented with similar circumstances. Man, this place is loaded with moths today. Okay. So, skeptical and psychological explanations. This section is essential for credibility. That's why we have it here. The skeptical case is not that the stories are boring. It's that they are poorly documented. Sharon Hill noted that BEK stories have the traits of textbook urban legends, and that the evidence mainly consists of internet anecdotes, with no solid documentation, such as corroborating records. I don't know. Skeptoid likewise characterized the body is as evidence. Online storytelling, here you go, lacking support and documentation. And then we have friend-to-friend transmission, which is always interesting. The hallmark of urban legends is FOAF, friends. FOAF pattern. It happened to my cousin, in other words, or my friend saw one, or someone in my town had this happen. How many times have you heard that or even said it? This makes stories vivid and hard to verify. Okay. Once legend exists, people may interpret normal events through it. Children at night, for instance, or dark pupils in low light. Or, awkward teenagers or unsettled social encounters. Fear-induced memory sharpening around certain details. So let's look at eye perception and why black eyes are so disturbing. Humans rely highly or heavily on the contrast between iris and white sclera to read gaze and intention. Research shows that visible sclera, that's the whites of your eyes, by the way, are important for gazing, perception, and obscuring. The contrast makes it harder to read. That matters because part of the BEK effect may be that the eyes removed one of the face's main trust signals. What about low light pupil dilation? Because you ever go to the eye doctor and he dilates your eyes to look in there and see how your retinas are doing and everything? Spooky looking because they're all black with very little iris on the outside. So possible non-paranormal contributors include nighttime lighting, strong pupil dilation, shadows, or misseeing the eye region during stress. That's interesting. This would not create the full legend by itself, but it could feed some witness impressions. And then we always have the hoax and costume effects, right? You always have the Joker that's out there and says, this is just too good to be true. I got to do something that's going to make everybody laugh or everybody believe what's going on here. Let's see. Sharon Hill explicitly noted the possibility of hoaxes and pointed out that the full iconic lenses can create a convincing black-eyed look. Let's see. Okay, let's see. The BEK phenomena is real as folklore, but unverifiable or unverified as an external paranormal species. Okay. Internet spread, creepypasta, and the immediate application. Internet age folklore. BEKs are strong examples of how folklore now spreads. They're sent out through mailing lists, paranormal forums, blogs. YouTube is a big one. Podcasts, and social media retelling. I can plead guilty when it comes to podcasts. Creepypasta connection. The legend came to be treated like classic internet horror because it has a repeatable template, first-person feel, ambiguity between truth and fiction, viral adaptability, and that's it. The media feedback loop. Snopes noted, me and Snopes do not see eye to eye. Just mentioning them that here is just bothering me. But anyway, Snopes noted renewed internet interest after the 2013 Weekly Strange video. Okay, tabloid escalation. In 2014, British tabloid covered tied alleged sightings to Cannock Chase and ran sensational claims about rising encounters with which helped to internationalize the legend. Sharon Hill criticized the size of the coverage as as classic mystery mongering and amplification. Sorry. Okay. Film and entertainment adaptation. The legend also entered pop culture through indie films. You ever watch those? They're hilarious, for the most part. And Kickstarter era horror projects. What was that one? Something Project. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, Kickstarter era horror projects showing that BEKs became not just folklore, but also a marketable horror concept. Okay. Radio Insight. Once a legend becomes narratively tight, easy to retell, and emotionally vivid, it no longer needs the support to support strong evidence to survive. So why people keep believing, or at least keep repeating the stories? Well, it weaponizes compassion. That's interesting. The entity is scary because it looks like someone you are morally obligated to help. Okay. Okay. All right. I get these thoughts that keep coming on to me, folks. Sorry. Let's see. Okay, B, it collapses trust in the home. Your house is supposed to be safe, of course. Your door is supposed to be a boundary. And BEKs turn that threshold itself into a place of danger, right? Especially because doors are meant to keep people out and to keep you in. And if you think that there's somebody out there all the time, you're not going to go out. So you're deprived the opportunity to leave your own home because of the fear that you might run into these things. That's why it's always good to rebuke them in the name of Yeshua, because once the enemy knows that you belong to Yeshua and that you have knowledge of him and that you have the authority to rebuke them, they don't want to come back. They're going to go pick on somebody else that doesn't know this stuff, right? All right. Let's see. It attacks the face. The eyes are central to the human trust. Take away the whites of the eyes, and the person stops feeling fully readable. That is so dang true. Okay. It is spiritually suggestive. Even for non-religious listeners, the motive of needing permission, crossing a threshold and disguising evil as innocence, feels spiritually loaded. So it is modern but mythic. That is probably the real secret of its survival. Okay. Strong comparison section for live discussion. Okay, I don't want to do that. Let's see. Okay, so we're not going to go into that or that. Okay. Let's see. So let's consider some questions that we can ask ourselves, okay? Since we don't have a forum to go back and forth, why do so many BEK stories happen at thresholds, doors, windows, and cars? Another question, why do they ask permission instead of forced entry? And the one after that, why does it happen to basically more children than anybody else? Anything else? So, as to thresholds, well, like I said, a door is a portal into the house, a window is a portal into the car, and cars are conveyances from one place to another. So those are the things where you can really catch people. I would imagine if you were to talk to a person that delivers summonses, that these would be the places you'd find them. At their door, at the window of your car, actually, or the car itself. And why do they ask permission? Simply because it's in the spiritual realm this is all happening, and that there are some boundaries in the spiritual realm that are a little stricter than what's in the regular round, so it could have something to do with it. Why did they ask permission instead of forced entry? Well, that's pretty easy, because they're demonic, and demons can't really enter unless a person is such a wreck that they have no immunity, basically, or something like that. A word I'm looking for. Immunity from these things, then these things feel comfortable going in, and after that it's too late. But if a person's possessed, some way, shape, or form, they ask for it. Let's see. I don't think I'm going to go any farther with that. Let's see. Okay. Let's see here. Well, black-eyed children may never be proven as literal entities, but they are already real as modern folklore, and that alone makes them worth studying. Whether these are demons, delusions, hoaxes, or story the internet has taught us to fear, their phenomena reveals how fragile our senses of safety really is. The black-eyed child at the door is not just a monster, it's a test of trust, boundaries, and belief. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I'm just going to go a little farther, folks, and then I think there's one more video to watch, and then I'm going to have to do a part 2. I am not going to sit here for another hour and a half, and I don't expect you to do that either. I'm sure you have better things to do than sit here for 3 hours watching a video. An hour and a half is long enough, and 2 hours is really stretching it. But 3 hours, nah, I won't ever, unless I have a live show and it's on a scene somewhere or something and things are happening. I won't do that. Let's see. Okay, so here's a summary, real quick. The BEK phenomenon is best traced to the late 1990s circulation of Brian Bethel's story about 1996 Abilene encounter. The legend's reoccurring traits are strikingly stable: black eyes, child form, formal speech, dread, and request for permission to enter. Folklore and media scholars treat it as a modern construction built from older monster child and threshold entry motifs. Skeptical writers emphasize that the phenomena lacks strong documentation and behaves like an internet-era urban legend transmission rather than a verified paranormal case file. And psychological research on gaze perception, GAZE that is, helps explain why the eyes without visible sclera feel profoundly unsettling and may intensify witness reactions. Maybe why it's unsettling too is because, darn it, what animals on Earth have black eyes? Well, insects, for the most part. You look at a praying mantis, all black eyes, and if something is bipedal and has black eyes, then it's an abnormality, and it's something for the brain that's hard for the brain to comprehend and to process. So, all right, folks, let's see. I think was there one more video. I think it's a short one. Okay, I promise you that. Okay, so urban legend story. Okay, here we go.
Hey, I'm Sapphire. Want to hear something scary?
3 minutes, folks.
Have you heard of the Black-Eyed Children? It's not an early 2000s cover band consisting of infants. It's a phenomenon that's been increasing in popularity over the past few years. The basic story is always the same. You're in your house, and then in the middle of the night you hear a knock on your door. And if you open the door, you'll see 2 young children with completely black eyes. They'll ask if they can come in. And whatever you do, don't let them in.
Do not.
Whether they actually exist or not, this is the creepiest encounter that I found online. This woman made the mistake of letting the black-eyed children in. this is what happened. So this woman and her husband live in a rural town in Vermont, sort of in the middle of nowhere. And one snowy night, they are awoken at 2 a.m. to a really loud banging on the door. So they open the door and they see a young boy and a young girl, and they're definitely not appropriately dressed for the snow. They're avoiding eye contact and just staring at the ground. There was something really uneasy about these kids. And so they asked them, "Where are your parents?"
They'll be here soon. Can we come in?
So this woman and her husband just looked at each other, and despite all of their instincts telling them not to, they decided to let the children in. So the woman went into the kitchen to make everyone some hot cocoa, and her husband went into the living room and was sitting there with the kids and trying to get more information out of them. And that's when she noticed her cat was acting really weird. Usually her cat is really friendly and likes to approach any guests that come into the house. But this time, he just hid underneath the kitchen table and was staring at the children and growling very lowly. So the woman took the hot cocoa and went into the living room, and she noticed that her husband had his head in his hands. "I feel really dizzy." The woman went to hand the cocoa to the children, and that's when they looked up at her for the first time. Their eyes were completely black. No whites, just black.
Maybe use the restroom?
And the kids left for the hallway. The woman turned to her husband and said, "Did you see their eyes?" Her husband lifted his head up and his nose was bleeding. And just then, the power went out. She couldn't help but think that the presence of these children had something to do with this. And so the woman stumbled her way over to the bathroom to see if she could get a tissue. And the two children were just standing there in the hallway.
Our parents are here.
So the kids went to the front door, left it wide open, and the woman saw these two really tall men in dark suits standing at the edge of their driveway. The woman waved at them, but they didn't react at all and went in their car, and all four of them drove away. The power came back on about half an hour later, but not everything went back to normal. A few days later, 3 of their 4 cats went missing, and one night they came home to find their cat dead in a puddle of its own blood. Her husband continued to have nosebleeds, and when he went to the doctor, he was diagnosed with a very aggressive type of skin cancer, a type that's linked to overuse of indoor tanning beds, which he's never used. She also claims that she started getting nosebleeds and feeling really dizzy randomly, and even some unspeakable things that she refused to disclose in her story. So, what do you guys think? Are there really black-eyed children running around putting curses on people? Let me know in the comments. Like this video if it gave you the chills, and don't forget to subscribe to Snarled and check out our other videos. Until next time, sweet dreams.
That's cute. Sweet dreams. As a rule, I don't watch this stuff late at night. I can handle it. My wife does not handle it very well. So I kind of skimmed through that last night, and I never noticed sweet dreams. But anyway, that's hilarious. So here you have it, folks. You know, you got these strange things, these strange kids, or strange children, like Scripture would call them, running around. And when you do further research in this, and I don't think we'll get into this, but I will now real quick. Usually they're grouped together with a couple of males that are very tall. They look and very reminiscent of the Men in Black. Okay, except not like the movie, which the guys had a lot of personality. They're very stone-faced, don't answer a lot of questions and everything else. And they're very threatening a lot of times towards people who have seen the children. So, because sometimes they'll visit them again later on and say, you know what, you really didn't see anything, did you? And if you say anything to anybody, well, something bad's going to happen to you. And so anyway, there you have it. So anyway, so on Tuesday we'll finish this up, okay? And we'll go from there. So thanks for your patience, but I hope you learned something today about black-eyed children, and you're going to learn a lot more on Monday because we're going to go into a Greek word study and look at different things from a biblical standpoint also. So, and real quick, oh man, yeah, let me go through this real quick. All right. I promise. I wish there was a way I could share this. We'll see. Let me see. We're on page. I'm on page 15. 27. Okay. I'm going to go down to the end. Hold on a second. The best way to do this is to go down to the end and explain myself here. Okay. All right. So I was thinking about this, and let's see. I got onto an AI engine, and I had the pictures that I had made from the other AI, and I said, okay, taking into account now, of course, the pictures that I made were stuff that I contrived, and I think the AI picked up on what I was going after and tried to please me, so it might not be totally accurate, okay? But anyway, so I looked at, I asked the AI, I says, everything, all things considered, not just the pictures I showed you, but also stories that you can get a hold of online or anywhere, and all this other stuff about black-eyed kids, and answer me a few questions. And I said, what about, what percentage of alien mixture, or I call them aliens, fallen angels, what kind of mixture denotes the eye size and the eye color? All right. So it gave me two different lists. One of them says 90 to 100% alien have fully black eyes. 70 to 90% alien have mostly black, slightly more human shape. 40 to 70% alien, very dark and large eyes, but not fully black. 20 to 40% alien, unusual but mostly human-looking eyes. What else we got here? Okay, and 0 to 20%, normal human eyes, maybe just a subtle oddity. Kind of like the two pictures at the end of or the presentation of all the pictures. Okay, so now it says, so if you want a clean rule for your series, the eye color would probably start shifting away from total black at about 40% alien or lower, and look mostly normal by around 20 to 25%. So if you want the most consistent framework for your image series, I'd set it up like this: 100%, 95%, and 75% alien equals black eyes. 50% alien equals dark, oversized eyes. 25% alien equals non-human eyes, maybe very dark irises. And 5% alien, normal human eyes. Okay. It says, last sentence here, the whole thing. The earlier black-eyed 25% alien image was basically the generator learning leaning into the creepy hybrid theme harder than the percentage implied. So it was doing too good a job. So anyway, folks, I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I can close this out. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, skedaddle. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope that it's nice weather for you and you can go out and do stuff and work on your yard, start getting it ready for spring and for summer. There's some really ugly looking bug just flew in here. I'm creeped out. Creepy pasta. Yeah, just have a wonderful weekend and don't get too crazy. Don't get in trouble or anything, but just enjoy life. Enjoy the fact that, we're still living basically free anyway, most of us, and enjoy the fact that Yahweh is still on the throne, and that He offers you eternal life and a blessing of freedom and liberty. Should you accept His offer? If you have accepted His offer, whether right now or earlier, God bless you, man. Okay, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May make His face to rise upon you and be gracious unto you. May He watch your going out and your coming in, your rising up and your lying down. And may He give you the peace that passes all understanding. In Yeshua's holy name, amen and amen. All right, folks, I'm going to end it here and get going. And I'll talk to you next Tuesday. Okay. Bye now.